What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone is having a fantastic Wednesday night so far. I'm here with some very special guests. We're back at it. Another episode of Canes After Dark. Got my co host Ross. We got 24/7 Canes, the Jet 305. We got Chris Audio. And we're going to talk some Canes football. We're a couple nights away from the big game in Atlanta, Georgia, September 4th. The Miami Hurricanes take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Ross, where do you want to begin with our great guest tonight, and what do you want to cover first?
Honestly, one of the first things I'd like to talk with these guys about is their feelings of our offensive line against Bama's defense. That's something I'd really like to hear about. 24/7, how about you kick it off, bro?
All right. Alabama's defense, their defensive line is pretty stout. Everybody averages about 6'3", 6'4". I'm interested to see Zion Nelson. Will he hold up? Especially against blitzing linebackers, all those exotic blitzes that they're gonna throw at us. But they got really, really big guys. I really don't know if we're gonna hold up to it. But I'll leave it for somebody else to bring the positivity, because I just don't believe it right now.
What about you, Jet 305? Okay, he's muted out. How about Chris take over, and then Jet will hop back on.
Sure. I think one of the things that if we were to try to be a little optimistic about it, I'm kind of with you. I'm not terribly optimistic, but if I were to look at something to give me a little bit of optimism, the amount of snaps that this line has under their belt is ridiculous. Probably the most experienced line we've had in I couldn't even tell you how long. But we have a lot of experience on the line right now, and you can't take that for granted, So, but on the other side, Alabama's defense, is going to be really, really good this year, and specifically their linebackers are going to be probably the best set of linebackers in the country this year. So, I don't know how we're going to hold up. Will Anderson is a monster. They have their whole defense is monsters. Their whole team is monsters. So, what am I really saying? But by kickoff, I'll try to talk myself into, yes, we can hold up. But right now, I'm just not seeing it.
Chris makes up a good point. We might even have to go max protection at times just to, establish that for De'Ara King, something that kind of reminded me in 2019. Looking over, our starting five in the first team offensive line, you have Scape at right tackle. It's more of the depth concern there where I'm worried about. Then at right guard, Navon Donaldson, who, this is his final year of college football. He has to execute, right? This is it. He's a veteran player. We've known he's gone through a roller coaster ride. He's gone through injuries, highs and lows. This is it for him. Left tackle, Jalen Rivers is going to be starting as a redshirt freshman. Really his first game action against the reigning national champions. That's a big question mark for me. You got Zion Nelson at left tackle. That's probably your best offensive lineman, and then your veteran presence, Corey Gaynor. So, really I'm looking at right tackle and left guard as big question marks going into this game. But hopefully our first team offensive line could carry, can compete with Alabama's defensive line and, stand up for themselves. But we might have to go max protection. Chris makes a great point. Ross, what do you think about the battle of the trenches?
It's where this game's going to be won and lost. If we don't force creativity from Bama, they simply won't do it. We have to get pressure on them. If we don't get pressure, they will keep it easy, they will keep it simple, and they will make it so basically it's kind of more like a mid-90s style football game. They'll just run the ball on us, dude. They're not going to want to expose a ton of their playbook. So our trenches has to prove it on both sides of the ball, and they got to do it in a major way.
24/7 Canes, were you talking about the comment? You aren't going to beat Bama in max protection. You're going to do it with space and speed if you want to add to it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the truth. You're not going to beat Bama by just trying to run the ball. Of course, trenches matter, but going max protection is just not gonna beat Bama. You have to beat them with speed. You have to beat them on the outside, and you have to be two-dimensional. You cannot be one-dimensional. You cannot sit there and just pass the ball all game, because they'll sit there and they'll shut that down. if we can't run the ball, we're going to be effed for the rest of the game. So I look forward to our offensive line, which that's what we're talking about now, to see if we have improved on the run game. Me and Ross have talked about this off air before, and especially on that right side of the line, adding Donaldson, I think that's something that's going to help a lot. Getting him back, him being such a big mauler like he is, and then pairing him up with Scaife. Let's see how that works out for us, because I'm expecting big things from Cam, because he's back. So we'll see.
Ross, how do you think you beat the Alabama Crimson Tide? Is it and do it with space and speed? Spread out Alabama. We talked about it before we all went live. Alabama's lost to a lot of mobile quarterbacks. So what do you think are the keys to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide?
Well, you got to find some semblance of balance. It's not easy to do, and it's the war of the trenches like we've been talking about previously. I mean, we got to find a way to get those tough 3 to 4 yards between the tackles when we need them. It's tough, Paul. It's a tough one on my end there, dude. I'm not really honestly sure how well we're going to do in that aspect. I really don't. This is just a loaded team, top to bottom, we're playing against.
No, 100% agree. They just reload at Alabama, and in my opinion, you have to play great football all 4 quarters. Can't be like Oklahoma State where you have a bad first quarter and they scored plus 20 points, and then you play well the next 3 quarters. You have to play great football every single quarter, every single play. You have to win the turnover battle, and you have to limit your penalties. Chris, what are you going to be looking out for in this game?
I was literally about to, what you just said right there. I think that Miami needs to win the turnover battle, and cannot turn the ball over. We cannot turn over the ball ourselves at all. We have to play an extremely clean game, and hopefully that's enough. And there's going to have to, and somebody's going to have to. There's going to have to be some players that are just going to have to step up. There's going to have to be some big plays. I just don't see us, putting together 12, 14 play drives and chipping our way down the field. I just don't see it. Somebody's gonna have to step up and make a big play. There's gonna have to be that maybe like big defensive touchdown, something like that, something that really turns the momentum. That's where I really see how things could really tilt our way a little bit.
I keep seeing the spread go up a little bit and a little bit. I'm curious as to, what's Vegas, the formula as to why it keeps increasing. I mean, the house never loses, right? Vegas is pretty accurate. That's why they make a lot of money there. Do you see Miami in a situation? Can they upset the Alabama Crimson Tide? 24/7 Canes? Do you think it'll be a shootout? I mean, how do you think this matchup fares? Because 19 points is a lot. That's a spread where that looks like a Power 5 team playing a non-Power 5 team is the way I see that spread.
I mean, it all really depends on Miami. How do we play them? I saw this somewhere else. I don't know exactly where I saw it or read it, but the last 3 games that Miami has lost, okay, the first quarter has been atrocious. We've been outscored like 10 to like 40 something points. All right, that's atrocious. We cannot come off to a slow start. So if you're talking about recipe and how to beat Alabama and defy the odds of Vegas, we have to go out and, get a lead early. Like our offense has to click. We just can't go 3 and out, hand the ball off 3 times and then just pray that we could pin them down deep, because we can't be in a hole.
The Jet 305, I know you had an interesting perspective on this game and, Miami Hurricanes football as a whole. What are your thoughts about this matchup?
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, Miami football was built upon games like this. If you think about it, back in the 80s, we were the upstart program. Not a lot of people knew about us. We were just, this team that came out of nowhere that won national titles. And if you think about it, we had a lot of games where people gave us no chance. Even our first national championship, that was, touted as one of the best, teams in college football history. And, it took the game of our lives to win that game, and even think about it when we beat Oklahoma at the Orange Bowl, what was it, 86? Oklahoma was coming off a long winning streak, and people thought, oh, there's no way Miami's going to win this game. And, you just went out there, you hit them in the mouth, and, you overpowered them and won. Now, me starting saying that is, I think, this is a historic moment for us. This is the type of game that can put you back on the map and, announce to the college football world that, hey, you know what, Miami, they got something going. And, Manny Diaz is building something here. And, of course, people want to say, oh, well, it's Alabama, well, Miami has no chance. Well, I mean, you may think that, but as a head coach, I'm pretty sure Manny is telling these guys, hey, nobody's giving you a chance in this game. Nobody's giving you a chance. So you know what you got to do? You got to go out there. You got to believe in yourself. And you got to say, you know what? Like Bubba said today, they bleed just like I bleed. They're human. We're human. And we can go out there. And if we execute and do what we need to do, we can go out there and get this win. But I think it all depends on Miami. We can't worry about whatever Alabama's doing. We can't look at them on the other sideline and be intimidated. Because I'm going to be honest, I think in that LSU game, a couple years ago, we saw them on the other side. And, quite frankly, we weren't ready for that SEC football. And it showed, throughout the game. I think defensively, we were good enough. Because if you think about it, they didn't really score that much. And they scored they had a pick six. A lot of things went wrong for us in that game. And what you guys were saying earlier is correct. If you want a chance to win this game, you got to start quick. You got to score, and you got to score a lot. I think for us to have a chance to win this game, we got to score at least between 35 and 38 points.
I agree. Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. You have to put up points to beat Alabama because they're going to put up points, and their defense as well are going to create turnovers and create points off of those turnovers. And I think that's how they win a lot of football games this upcoming season specifically is their defense. And that's something, a lot of the great teams that won national titles, they all had great defenses. It's defense wins championships. That's why that's a saying. It was created. You have to have a good defense to really be elite, win a national title. And I think that's why Alabama is going to be special this upcoming season. Can Miami put up points against a top 3 national defense? I think if they do put up 35 to 38 points, look out. It could be a special night, special afternoon, Saturday. Ross, anything you want to touch up on before we move on to a topic?
Just taking advantage of anything that Bama will give us, taking advantage of the turnovers, everything. If we get turnovers and we settle for field goals after it, it will backfire on us. We have to capitalize on anything they give us.
No.
Go ahead.
No, 1,000%. I agree with Ross on that one.
24/7 Canes. Who are some people to look out for Alabama's side of the ball?
Offense.
Offense.
Defense.
We'll start offense first, then defense.
Okay, offense. Obviously, Bryce Young. He's their young playmaker. Can we affect him? That's the biggest question. Another guy to look out for is Evan Neal. That matchup, whether it's Jafari Harvey going up against him or Zach McLeod. I'm not sure how they're going to do that, but that's another player to watch out for. And John Mechie the third. He's a brilliant route runner, fast guy, could take the top off any defense. He's just a special guy. I would say he's better than Jalen Waddle. I know that's something big, but he's that good in my opinion. So
wow.
So what's the game?
That's a bold statement.
I mean, what's the game plan around John Mechie, you think? Who covers him, and how does Miami, contain John Mechie? Because Manny Diaz said it best. He's probably one of the best wide receivers in the country. He can play at any program.
it's true. That's a great question, and one that would have to be answered by Manny himself and T-Rob. But if I were to take a crack at it, I'd put DJ Ivy on him. He's got the length, he's proven that he can shut him down. But the question remains, are we playing man? Are we playing zone? What are we doing? That's the magic question.
Chris, What kind of defense are you expecting? You know, Manny Diaz is going to be defensive coordinator, as 24/7 Kane said. Are we going to be playing man? Are we going to be playing zone? Are you going to see kind of variables of a 4-3 come back to the old Manny Diaz defense? Or are we going to stay strictly 4-2-5? You know, what do you expect defensive scheme wise going into this game?
I think a couple things. I think that we're going to see a little bit of 4-3. I think that there's going to be, I think off the bat, I think Manny's going to really try to stop the run. Because I think if Alabama is able to get their run game going,
Yep,
all bets are off. I'm sorry. I think I'm not going to say to the tune of 62 points like in North Carolina, but it could get ugly. It can get ugly fast if they're like really get their running game going fast. But I really think there's going to be an emphasis on making sure that doesn't happen. But I think they're going to play a lot of man, and I think that they're going to throw. yeah, exactly. But I think that also Manny's going to throw a lot of different looks to try to throw off Bryce Young. I think that's going to be really key because we have to find ways to either confuse him, force him into mistakes.
Yeah, you know, Chris, my opinion is get to Bryce Young, pressure him in the pocket, get in his head, and that's when your edge rush comes in. You know, can we break through their offensive line and, you know, get to the quarterback? And I think that's where Miami's defense really, you know, comes out more and we're more dominant is when we get to the quarterback, we apply pressure from our defensive line. The Jet 305. I mean, what do you think going into this game? How do you think Manny schemes around Alabama?
Well, I mean, look, he's had plenty of time. You know, I'm pretty sure he's going to throw everything, the kitchen sink, all you can imagine. He's going to throw at him, and I think you got to start early, man. You know, Bryce Young. I've seen a lot of his film from when he was in high school, and I think I only saw him struggle in 2 games, and those were 2 big-time games. And what they did is pretty simple, you know. They played press against his receivers, and they said, look, you know, our corners are better than your receivers. Now, is DJ Ivy better than John, you know, Minchie? I have no idea. You know, that's going to be a tough matchup, you know, for any corner because he's really good. Now, I don't know if he's better than Jalen Waddle, but I'm a Dolphins fan, so maybe I'm a little biased by that. But, you know, I think he's really good. I think the guy you got to look out for is, you know, they brought in a heck of a freshman receiver class. You know, they brought in the speedster from Texas. They brought in 2 guys from Florida, 1 guy from down here. Well, I mean, he was at IMG, but he went to Booker T. So I consider him a South Florida receiver. And, I mean, look, those young receivers, they're going to get on the field, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think, you know, of course they brought in the Ohio State transfer. I think he's good. But to a certain degree, he's unproven too. You know, even at Ohio State, he didn't, you know, play much. I mean, what he had, like less than 5 catches last year. So, you know, we'll see. You know, I'm the type of person that I got to see it before it happens. You know, I'm not going to crown anybody before they've played a game. You know, I see a lot of people hyping up Bryce Young just because he was, you know, the whole #1 dual threat, you know, highly rated guy. The guy hasn't played a game yet. You know, of course he could, you know, he could very well be great. He could be like Tua, you know, Mac Jones, who knows? But the guy, you know, we got to see him under the lights. And I think, you know, Manny is going to have a great game plan. The question is can the players do it? You know, as a head coach, you can, and a coordinator, you can put the best game plan possible. But the players got to get the job done. And I think the main key, like you guys were talking about, is we got to stop the run. You know, look, I think Bryce Young, he's going to get his yardage. You know, in today's college football, you know, it's going to be hard to keep a quarterback, you know, under 300 yards, under 280 yards, you know. So I think that as long as we can, you know, we're not going to totally shut down the run because Alabama's offensive line is great. But can you hold them under 140 yards? Can you hold them to like 130? I think if you can do that, that could be the key to the game. Because I think if you do that, you have a great chance to put all the pressure on Bryce Young. And let's see if he's ready and up for the challenge.
Yeah. No, great points by the Jet 305. You know, Ross, position by position, is there anywhere that you see Miami has an edge over Alabama? Maybe quarterback play, running back, offensive line, D-line. Where do you think Miami has the edge?
I think that we're going to do okay. I mean, okay is a relative term in this, but I think our secondary is going to do okay versus their wide receivers. I don't think we're going to shut them down necessarily by any means. That's pretty much impossible. But I think our secondary, with the talent we have and with T-Rob being there, I think he's going to really bring that unit into the new era and really get us adjusted to the spread offense.
Yeah, no, I do agree on that. And, supposedly Rhett Lashlee's going to be opening up the playbook a little bit more offensively. Second go around, De'Aaron King's coming back. Anything you want to see, not just this game or throughout the season from Rhett Lashlee's playbook to be utilized more. For me, it's hitting Will Mallory, giving him more targets. Anything differently you'd like to see 24/7?
I'd like to see us utilize our youth at wide receiver and utilize our athletes to the best abilities they have. I don't want to see us slowing things down. I want to see us using speed. We
Agreed.
finally have those guys to do it. Even a Brashard Smith, true freshman. But when you have that kind of speed, you can get on the field and make some stuff happen. So don't be surprised if he's out there.
24/7?
I mean, I agree. Everything that Ross said to the fullest extent. On offense, I just want play fast as possible. Don't even huddle. Just go no huddle as fast as you can, because that tends to F Bama up. It's been effing Bama up for a while. And if we're going to play, we got to play fast. Another thing, Will Mallory has to be an X factor, just like you said. But it's all going to depend on how much time we have to throw. If we only get 2 seconds or under 2.3 seconds to throw the ball, it's going to put De'Aaron King in the situation where he's going to have to use his legs to extend the play. So Alabama's 3 deep at every position, especially on defense. So it's going to be a tough task. And I think where we have the edge the most is actually playing fast, because we're actually better at receiver than we were a year ago. And Restrepo cracked the starting lineup. So I'm excited to see that. Just take advantage of him. If Alabama's going to be aggressive doing exotic blitzes, send Restrepo in a slant and just keep eating all day.
Chris, when you saw the depth chart, were you any surprises? Were you happy with everything you saw?
Two things really stood out to me. And one in a good way, one in a, I don't want to say bad way, but just in a kind of like a kind of way. I was happy to not see D. Wiggins or Mark Pope at the top of the depth chart. I think we've seen enough to know that they have talent. I'm not here to like crap on either one of them, but I think we've seen enough to know that neither one is like that dude, and I think it's time to see some of these other guys. So I was actually really encouraged to see that. And maybe, we can get away from like a couple years ago where like Greg Rousseau was a backup for half the season, to was it Scott Patchen? Right.
Yeah.
Man. And he's still playing, I think.
Yeah.
10 years of eligibility. Crazy. But the other thing that I thought was kind of, I don't want to say bad because I'm willing to wait and see, is Zach McLeod starting at defensive end. I know they're going to rotate the ends a lot anyway, so that starting might not mean anything really in that particular case, and they're going to rotate all 4 ends a lot, I think. It's going to be pretty evenly split from everything that I've read and heard. So, but I thought that was interesting at the least.
Yeah, Jay, how do you think this defensive line kind of rotates against Alabama throughout the season and with Zach McLeod as well? Do you think he remains the starter, and how do you think his season will go?
Well, I'm just going to be blunt with it. He's not going to keep that at least past like 2 or 3 games. No offense to Zach. Of course, he's a hard worker. He's a hurricane. Give him credit for that. But I don't see it, man. I think he's the starter against Alabama because he's been here for like 10 years, so they want, a veteran presence to be starting. But I am very high on Chance Williams. I'm a big fan of him. I was a huge fan of him when we were recruiting him. It was huge that we were able to steal him from Georgia and Florida. And I think he's going to be one of the breakout stars of this season. I think him and Jafari Harvey they're really going to step up. I know a lot of people, are nervous because they're like, oh, well, they haven't shown it yet. Well, I mean, hey, like we didn't know about Greg Rousseau until, he just went out there and did it. Of course, us Hurricane fans, we knew about him because, if you know recruiting, you know that he was a sleeper and, he had the potential to do what he did, but he just needed to grow into the position. That's exactly what he did. And I think a guy like Chance and Jafari, it may have taken them a little bit longer, but I think they're going to be a dynamic duo for us this year. And it may not be in the Alabama game, but I think as the season goes on, they're going to progressively get better and better. And I think for the Bama game, it's going to depend on our D tackles. I'm really high on our, 4 or 5 man unit. I know that LT wasn't mentioned on the depth chart, but best believe he's going to get snaps in this Alabama game. Dude, in my opinion, just my opinion, I've seen film on all of the top 50 recruits in the country last year. He was the best. I think it's really between him and I wouldn't even see the JT guy because the JT guy is good, but he didn't really have the same type of production that LT had. I mean, in my opinion, I don't even think it was close. He was easily the best player in Florida, and he should have been the number 1 player in the country. But, that's another subject all in itself. But I think if the interior, line can bring enough pressure, that's going to open it up for the rest of the defense. And I think don't be surprised if we see Amari Carter come in on a few blitzes, well timed, of course, because if you saw his freshman year, Manny, he was pretty successful when he brought Carter on the blitz. I think it happened like 5 times and he ended up getting like 2 sacks. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see that. And going back to the depth chart question, the thing that really shocked me was, I was surprised that Tyreek Stevenson wasn't starting. I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's going to be a great player for us. I mean, it could be that, maybe he had a subpar camp. We don't know. We weren't there, and maybe the coaches are just trying to motivate him. That's why they got him on second string because, a lot of great players, coaches do that sometimes to light a fire under them. So I think Tyreek is still going to end up being one of the best players we have on defense. And, this is me calling my shot, but I think he's going to make a game-changing play in this Alabama game it's going to help us out big time.
I agree. I think Tyreek Stevenson, in my opinion, thinking of it quick, there's a lot of great players, but I think he'll be probably either our best or one of the best defensively, and that would be great, to make a game-changing play. I'll tell you what, if you guys remember that LSU game early on in the first quarter, I believe it was like the second drive, maybe first, Javonte Dean had an easy pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
He dropped it. You can't make those mistakes against Alabama. When they give you a treat, you got to take the treat and run with it, right?
Yep, 1,000%. I mean, if you think about the LSU game too, I mean, the defense was doing pretty good at the beginning. First quarter, we basically didn't give up anything. And then you see in the second quarter, what was it, like second, third play, we're rotating linebackers and they break off like a 55-yard touchdown. And it's, I know Manny, he likes to rotate to keep his guys fresh. Look, I'm going to be honest. We're going to rotate this game, but you can't rotate your big dogs. The people that we need out on the field, they got to be out there.
That was ridiculous. So that rotation specifically, I mean, that was like half the defense. He just had like third stringers in there. It was like, come on.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna get gashed, per run, then you have to throw in all these guys because you got to stay fresh
for sure. But it was like wholesale. It was like, come on.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I understand.
All right.
I mean, look, I just think at the end of the day, our defense, I think our defense is going to be better than people think it is. I know we got a lot of people that, I guess haven't really proved it on the big stage yet. But, I mean, that's how college football is, A good college program, an elite college program, they're always going to have new faces that step up. And who is it going to be for us this year? They got to show it. But I think we're going to have at least 3 or 4 players on defense that nobody was talking about big time that is going to be a household name by the end of the season.
All right. We're halfway done with the show. By the way, guys, we are 3 subscribers away from 7,000 total subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, we just need 3 more. Greatly appreciate it. 3 more to get to 7K. We started at 0 2 years ago, and then in September it will be 3 years. So definitely has come a long way, this YouTube channel. Ross, anything you wanted to add before we move forward? Another question for the roundtable.
I think just one point I want to make, and I hope that it's something that ends up being very valuable for us, is while we see the starters we have at defensive end, if a guy like DeAndre Johnson, who has got some experience, can actually start, really showing up and can be at least a decent guy to rotate in, it will be a big help for us. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
100% agree. That's someone we're going to need tremendously to step up. And I will say DeAndre Johnson as well at defensive end. He's going to be providing depth for Jahvari Harvey or vice versa. We need him to come through a lot because if our edge rushers don't get to the quarterback and the offensive line is just dominating, the entire game, that's a red flag right there. That's a huge red flag.
It's not only getting to him, it's making the tackle on the ball carrier.
Mhm.
That's
Correct.
crucial.
Correct. No, I mean, I think we all learned from North Carolina. Our run D is awful, right? I mean, I think our linebacker personnel, that's a big question mark as well. The Jet 305 thinks we're going to have a better defense. I got to see it to believe it.
Well, I mean, another reason why I think it's going to be better is if you go back to that one year that Jess Simpson, was the D-line coach. We didn't have a lot of, highly touted guys, but that D-line, that was the best run defense we've had in years.
Correct.
Even when Manny was the DC in 2017 and 2016, it wasn't as good as it was then. That 2018 defense was elite. I mean, that's why people considered it one of the best in the country. And I think with Jess being the D-line coach again, I believe our run defense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. And even though our linebacker core at the end of the day is suspect and we're going to have to, depend on Flagg and Smith taking, a step up in their game, I think, at least Smith, I think he can be a very good player. Flagg, I know a lot of people are high on, let's see what he does. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not holding my breath on it.
All right, let's do some rapid fire real quick. I will start off with Ross. Ross, do we see Leonard Taylor or James Williams against Alabama?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there'll be specific sets for James Williams as the movable chess piece. And I think a guy like Leonard Taylor has to get in there at least occasionally just due to his raw upside.
Chris?
Same question?
Yeah.
Yeah, no question. I don't think it's going to be heavy snaps, but for sure they'll get worked in a little bit.
24/7?
Look for 10 to 15 snaps for Taylor and James Williams as well.
All right. Jet?
I agree 1,000%. I think it's going to be about 10 to 15. Maybe if one of the safeties, isn't, getting the job done, maybe, James gets a little bit more playing time. But I feel like 10 to 15 is a good number. And I think they're going to play well. I think those guys are ready to rumble.
By the way, guys, we're at 6,999, so we just need one more to hit 7K. Just if anybody wants to be nice enough. Thank you to everyone tuning in right now. So whoever wants to be our 7K subscriber, more than welcome to hit the subscribe button. All right. So Devin Ray asks, who's going to be our Robert Knowles, Darrell Langham player this season? I mean, Darrell Langham, guys, made 2 game-winning catches, was a key contributor to that 2017 season. Do you see a veteran player really playing, that game difference maker role, making clutch plays for us that, wasn't really useful early on in his career, but his final year really did a nice job? Ross.
I got a surprise guy. I think it's Larry Hodges. I think Larry Hodges, a lot of people, they think, oh, well, he hasn't done much yet. He's, been, had some trouble off the field. I mean, look, at the end of the day, people make mistakes. I'm not going to, I don't judge people for the things that they do. And I think, he can be someone as a red zone guy that we can use, a little bit how we used, Chris Herndon in the red zone. I could see, someone like Larry Hodges end up this year with about maybe like 4 or 5 touchdowns. And if you ask someone, now before the season starts, I don't know if anybody, thinks much of Larry Hodges, but I think he can be a sleeper that can step up for us.
Ross?
I think this is Harley's time to shine, man. I really do. This is the guy that we need to kind of put the offense, especially in the pass game, on his back. Rambo, fantastic guy for us to bring in. Fantastic guy. We haven't had a number 2 I mean, when's the last time we had 2 wide receivers on the field at the same time we could trust? Possibly having a young guy like Keyshawn Smith be able to come in too and be an actual weapon. So to me, it's Harley. To me, that's the guy that really needs to put the offense on his back in the Bama game.
Chris?
This is kind of a random name, but in terms of guys who have been there for a while, and I think we're going to see definitely an increase in their production, and not just be a guy. I think John Ford's going to have a pretty decent season at defensive line. He's been really good in camp, and I think we're going to see him take a little step forward.
24/7.
I'm going to go O-line here. I'm going to go Corey Gaynor. He's been here for a while. He's got to be the leader of that offensive line. And on defense, I'll go ahead and go with DJ Ivy.
Yep.
I'm gonna say offensively for me, Charleston Rambo. I think he's gonna play a big part of this offense, and I think he's gonna be a real difference maker. Defensively, gosh, Jonathan Ford was a good one, Chris. I'm gonna say Tyreek Stevenson. I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with the transfers. Miami's best players years previously, for the most part, heavy majority, have been transfer portal players. And I think that keeps the status quo this upcoming season. So I got Rambo, Tyreek Stevenson really contributing big time. All right. Who scores the first touchdown, guys?
I think it's going to be a running back, honestly. I think one thing that people haven't really, noticed, well, maybe they have, but in the 2 games Alabama gave up a ton of points last year,
right?
2 main things happened. The tight ends and receivers that not a lot of people knew about stepped up, except for really Ole Miss, because Elijah Moore is a stud. But nobody really knew much about their tight end, and he had an amazing game. Both their running backs, I think, scored 2 touchdowns each. And in the Georgia game, James Cook had a great game. And I think that, if we really want to be successful, a guy like Jalen Knighton, Chaney, Cam Harris, they got to step up. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for them to get the job done. And I'm going to say that Cam Harris scores the first touchdown.
Cam Harris. Chris?
I'm going to go wide receiver. I'm going to go Charleston Rambo. I'm really looking for Will. I really hope Will Mallory has a big game. But their linebackers are really great, so I don't know how that's all going to work out. But I was going to say Will Mallory at first, but I was like, I don't know. I think a wide receiver is going to really step up, and I think it's going to be Charleston Rambo.
By the way, we just hit 7K subscribers. Historical Canes After Dark Night.
Yes, sir.
Thank you to everyone, to those 7,000 people that have subscribed. We greatly appreciate it. Could not have done it without you guys. So thank you to everyone tuning in right now that is subscribed to the channel. Greatly appreciate it. 24/7 Canes said King. Ross?
Yep.
Who do you got?
I got Keyshawn Smith on a one-on-one opportunity. I got the rest of our wide receivers, tight ends, with some distraction. Hopefully Mallory over the middle with a little distraction. Put Keyshawn one-on-one. I think that's a valuable way to go.
Keyshawn Smith. All right, we'll see what happens. I think Will Mallory is going to be the first one, to be honest, man. Everyone's screaming Mallory. I think it's going to be Will Mallory. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, we're going into the 40-minute mark. What is everyone's score? Well, not me and Ross are going to do ours tomorrow when we go live again at 9. What is your score prediction, Jet 305? Remember, the spread is 19 points or 18.5. I just want to throw it out there.
I've been going back and forth, honestly, because I think we're good enough. I think we're good enough to keep it competitive and maybe sneak it out at the end. If you would have asked me a week ago, I probably would have said Alabama 34, Miami 26. But honestly, I'm gonna go with the gusto. I'm gonna go with Miami 37, Alabama 31. I think that, I don't know. I think that the moment it's right there, and I think the players, they're ready for it. They remember all that happened last year, the ups and the downs, the disappointment of the last 2 games going the way that they did. And I think, this is the moment where we show the world that we're not back yet, but we can play with the big boys. And I think winning this game, it's going to be an awakening, I guess you can say, or a reawakening.
All right. Well, Jet 305 has the Miami Hurricanes pulling off the upset. What do you think, 24/7?
Do you want my homer prediction or do you want my analytical prediction?
I mean, how about you do both? Yeah.
All right. So my homer score would be Alabama 33, Miami 36 on a Borregales field goal. And then my analytical says 44 Alabama, Miami 27.
That seems sensible. Look, I'll say this: if Miami puts up 27 points, I think that's a good sign the offense is clicking. So if that does happen, that would be great. Chris, what do you think?
My actual prediction is Alabama 38, Miami 27. But I don't know. I got like this gut feeling that we can get this done. I really do. But if I'm trying to just be as objective as possible, I just think we'll run out of gas at some point. But we can get it done.
All right. Well, guys, it was a pleasure to have everyone on. Thank you for your great insight, your perspective. Thank you for everyone tuning in. I'll say this: rooting for the Miami Hurricanes. It's not 2001. We've been humbled many times, so I think we're all dying to just finally win a huge game, and we'll find out September 4th. And usually everyone's predictions like completely off, so hey, we'll see what happens. That's usually the case, but we'll see what happens. And always, guys, all about the U. Go Canes. Thank you again for everyone tuning in.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.